DreAllDay.com.
You are now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative, which is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into one bundle, one package, one mindset, one method, one philosophy, one book, one show, one daily, yes, you heard me, daily masterclass that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. Today's topic: the truth is rarely sexy. The truth is not sexy. The truth is not very physically appealing. Now, before we get into the explanation of why we're talking about this and then into the material, first I want to let you all know that I have a text line at which I want you to send me a text and let me know the most valuable insight, the best thing you hear from today's episode. My text number is 305-384-6894. Once again, 305-384-6894. Send me a text. Let me know the best thing you get from today's episode. Now, the reason why I'm talking about this is because the media, what I talked about in episode number 1474, when I told you to stop watching the news, because the news used to be the news, but it's not the news anymore. Again, that's episode 1474. We can't trust the media to give us the truth anymore. What the media will give you is some facts, and they'll mix it in with some opinion, and then they'll blend it all together and tell you that they're giving you the story. That's what they call it. When the media tells you they're giving you a story, they're giving you a little bit of fact, mixed in with some opinion, and then they just present it as a story. And these people are trained writers. And some of them are trained, actually, not all of them. Some of them are hacks. But you got some trained writers in there, and their very job is to keep you emotionalized. That's their whole thing. Their gig is not to give you what you need to know. Their gig is to keep you emotionalized based on giving you things that you want to hear. Because the more angry you are, the more fearful you are, the more anxious you are, that's the more engaged that you stay, because you got to pay attention to that thing that has you angry, anxious, or fearful. This just goes to the lizard brain of human beings. And this is how their whole industry is run. And because now they have to compete against all of our social medias, they got to compete against our Twitters, our Facebooks, our Instagrams, our Clubhouses, our what are the other apps? All the other apps out there. They got to compete against our inboxes because they're all on one device now. They're all competing against that. It's not just the newspapers. Nobody watches the news anymore. A lot of people don't even watch TV. We just get on the internet. They have to compete against all of this stuff. So they got to play the game. The game for them is we got to get eyeballs. We got to get clicks. We got to get engagement. We got to get listeners. We got to get readers. We need viewers. We need watchers. And whatever we need to do that, because if we don't do it, all of you talking to the people working there, you're gonna lose your paychecks. You won't have a job here. So you better go and get, driving some clicks. If you gotta tell some bullshit, if you gotta twist the story a little bit, if you gotta say something that you know is gonna get people fearful and anxious, while at the same time it draws clicks, then hey, you're doing good. You'll get a bonus. You'll get your check. If you don't, you'll get fired. You'll be on your ass trying to figure out what to do. This is where the media is at right now. And this is why you should not be watching the news. Again, listen to episode 1474 where I explain that in more detail. But when I talk about the media is not to be trusted these days, I'm not just talking about the mainstream media like ABC and Fox and CBS and MSNBC and damn ESPN as well, outside of the things that have a scoreboard. I'm also talking about social media, because look, who can you trust on social media? All those people who are on social media, including myself, including yourself, we all have an angle too. We all are looking to get attention because this is the attention economy. Journalists now, they're all on social media. And understand that journalists who are in media, they get paid and their performance is rated and analyzed based on what kind of engagement they're getting on social media. How many clicks did their article get from their Twitter account, or from how many swipe ups from their Instagram? How many followers do you have? These things determine whether they get a job or not, how much they get paid based on the things that they write, how much they're getting paid based on the kind of traffic that they're driving to the website. All of this stuff is part of the game in the industry these days. And I'm telling you that not to say that because of this, they're telling you some bullshit. I'm telling you that to say that their main priority is we need to get eyeballs and clicks, because that's how they sell ads and that's how they actually make their money. All right, that's where the business is driven from. And because they're in this competition with all the rest of us, CNN is actually competing against me and me against them, because they have this huge competition that they're in nowadays. Their number one priority is not just giving you the facts and giving you the full truth, because they can't do that anymore. And the reason is, and that's the topic of today's episode, the truth is not sexy enough to drive engagement. You understand what I'm saying? And you will understand once I get into these points. If the truth was sexy enough to drive engagement, then the news would just give you the truth. But we all know that they don't. Anyone who's listening to me right now, you can tell me a situation just in the last week or so where you saw something in the media, whether it was social media or mainstream media, that was like, you looked at it, and to you, it was like, this is some bullshit. This is some crazy shit that these people are putting out here. Why would they put something like this out here? The reason they put it out there is because of the fact that you're responding to it and reacting to it is the very reason they put it out, because it got your reaction. It got you to pay attention. It got you to retweet it or talk about it or mention it to your friend, even if you did it off the internet. It got you to respond and pay attention. It got you thinking about it and talking about it. That's how they make their money. All right, that's why they do it. The truth is usually not sexy enough to get you to react. The truth is usually, oh, okay, all right, it's a little bit this size, a little bit this, a little bit of that, a little bit of that. It's not so black and white. It's not so sensational. It's not so polarizing, and is unexciting. The truth is unexciting. That's how the news used to be back in the day. Any of you who's old enough to remember, you remember pre-internet. Any of you who grew up if you grew up before let's say before 2007, and you were a kid, when we were at home, I remember watching the news, we would be eating dinner, and we ate dinner as a family around the dinner table at night, damn near every night. And the news would be on, and I hated when the news was on because the news is so damn boring. All they would just talk about, they would tell you maybe some storm coming to town. Then they would tell you a story about usually they would open with some kind of violence that happened, because we know if it leads, it bleeds. They would do that even back in the day. But for the most part, they would just tell you the facts. When they were talking politics, they would just say, okay, this side did this, and this person's doing this, and the mayor's doing that, the governor said this, the president's doing this vote happened in Congress, and these things that all went over my head at that time as a kid. But it was just boring to me because there was nothing sensational about it. But nowadays, if a kid was to turn on the news, a 12-year-old or 10-year-old kid was to turn on the news, CNN, Fox, whatever other network is out there, it would actually kind of get their attention, because they have had to change the way that they do things to make it sound way more sexy to get everybody's attention. Whereas back in the day, they didn't have to do that because they had a monopoly on, it was a monopoly. It was 3 channels, 3, 6, and 10, gave you the news, and then guys, Fox came into the game, and they were all splitting up the advertising dollars. Nowadays, the advertising dollars are going to everybody. So they can't do that anymore. They can't be boring anymore and still make money. So they give us the extremes because extremes drive emotion, emotions draw attention, and attention is currency. And all of this is a business. Everybody following me? Have I lost you yet? Your job, as what I'm going to explain here today, is not to be mad at the media. Don't be mad at social media. Don't be mad at the news. Don't be picketing against Facebook. Or they're not changing, so doing that ain't going to change anything. So don't waste your energy. Your job is to appreciate the game for what it is. I told you in episode 1210, do not complain, play the game. All right. Every hustler knows how to play the game. And being a hustler means just understanding what the game is, and instead of getting played by it, learning how to play it, because the game is not going to change just because you don't like it. All right. So that's why I'm saying don't complain, play the game. Again, episode 1210. Your job today is to appreciate the game, but make sure you don't get sucked into the matrix at the same time. All right. And again, that right there, what I just told you. Appreciate the game. Don't be mad at it, even though you understand it, but don't get sucked into the matrix. So right there, I'm telling you something that's not quite so sexy. Point number 1. Topic once again today is the truth is rarely sexy. Understand that truth in life. And when I say truth, what I mean is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God. The full story of what happened. All the facts, all the details, the nuance, the context, everything that you need to understand about a situation, not just the headline. The truth in life always lives somewhere in between the extremes of the stories you hear. The truth is rarely what the headline says. The truth, it goes deeper. You got to read the actual story to get the real truth. The headline will tell you one thing. You read the story, you get a completely different thing, or a lot more to it than what just the headline wants to tell you. Here's the challenge, though. Most people don't read the story. Most people just read the headline. Most people just hear something from some news, quote unquote, outlet, and then accept it. And then they go around arguing for it or against it based on what they saw in the news headline, but they didn't even read the story, so they don't even know the details. They don't have the context. But they think they have, quote, facts, close quote. Most people tell stories if something happens to them. Right? And listen, people who are listening to this right now, you do this. Something happens to you that you didn't want to happen, and then you go tell somebody about it. What story do you tell? You tell people the story that makes you sound innocent, makes you sound well-meaning. You were just some innocent bystander doing everything right, and then somebody or something came along and did something bad to you, and then your enemies, you make them sound like goddamn Satan reincarnated. All right, hey, don't lie. You know you do it. I'll tell you a story once. I was out with a female once, and she went to the bathroom. I don't remember. We were at some restaurant. She went to the bathroom. She took her phone with her to the bathroom, and she put her phone down on the counter in the bathroom. Now, first of all, do not put your phone down on the counter in a public bathroom, because that's one of the most disgusting things you could possibly do. But she did it. She put her phone down on the counter in a public bathroom, forgot that she put it there, came back to her booth at the restaurant. 10 minutes go by, she realizes, oh shit, I left my phone in the bathroom. Goes into the bathroom to retrieve her phone, and of course, we all know what happened. The phone is gone. Now, later on that day, I hear this same woman whose phone was disappeared on her. She's telling people the story of what happened with her phone. And what she says, the way she told the story was, somebody stole my phone from the bathroom in the restaurant. And I heard her telling this, and I said to her, like, yo, nobody stole your fucking phone, dummy. You left it in the bathroom. You lost your phone. Nobody stole it. Stealing it means somebody like took it when it was in your possession and you just didn't see them take it. No, you lost it because you left it in the bathroom. Those are two different stories, and it paints a completely different picture when you say somebody stole from me, meaning they are completely at fault and you were completely innocent, and I lost it, meaning I'm at fault and I just was irresponsible. Do you see how that paints two completely different pictures? Now, you may think that's just semantics. Yes, it is semantics, but semantics matter. And this is what many people do, and this is what the news media does. If they like you, then it's somebody stole your phone. If they don't like you, it's you lost your phone, metaphorically speaking. You follow what I'm saying? And again, look at the headlines. Go on any news network. Go on social media right now. I guarantee you'll see this. You'll see it in every headline. You'll see it in every tweet. You'll see it in every news story. You'll see it on the cover of newspapers. For those of you who know where to find a newspaper these days, this is what they do. They make it sound one way when they approve of you and another way when they don't approve of you. And if they are indifferent about you, they won't make it sound anyway because they won't write about you, because that doesn't sell. You see how this works? This is the game that we're in, folks. Knowing this, appreciate the version of things that you hear while knowing that there's some sauce on that story. This is your job. And understand, this is your job with every single thing you hear from 99% of people out here these days. 99% of people could not explain to you what I've explained to you already just in the first 15 minutes of this episode. And even if they could explain it, they don't want to because it might hurt their business. So you can appreciate when somebody tells you that, all right, this person is just, whatever this person does, they just find a way to make it look terrible. And whatever this person does, they find a way to excuse it. You can appreciate both. At the same time, for both, understand there's some sauce on the story. In other words, if they dislike the person, they put some sauce to make it sound worse. If they like them, they put some sauce to make it sound good. This is the game. Everybody is playing this game. And if you're not aware of this game, you're the one who's getting played. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is that the truth is rarely sexy. These days, you must get your own information. 100% of it. What does that mean, though? As I already told you in episode number 1474 about the news. The news is not the news anymore. It used to be the news. Not anymore. Now it's on you to get the news. The problem with this assignment that I'm giving you is that anyone that you could look up or try to get info from, they're just telling you their version of the event. Again, 99% of people out here, even those who have a platform and have a microphone, couldn't tell you what I told you just in the last 15 minutes because they don't have the objectivity to do so. They got too many dogs on one side of the race to be objective about anything. Everybody these days is telling you their version of an event. They're not telling you what actually happened. They're telling you their version of it. The solution, then, here's what you do. Since you're like, okay, well, if everybody's giving me a version of the event, Dre, where am I supposed to get the information from? If everybody's doing it, then it's like what do I do? It's like an endless loop. What you do then is you get multiple points of view, and then you piece together the truth between all of them. This is the job you got to do. Yes. Is it more work? Yes. Will it be more time consuming? Yes. But will you be more informed and better to assess situations objectively and dispassionately because of this habit? Also, yes. So get multiple POVs So you can hear from somebody on this side, then hear from somebody on the other side. As the late, great Zig Ziglar used to say, he said, every day I wake up and I read a little bit of the Bible, then I read a little bit of the newspaper so I know what both sides are up to. All right, you need to do the same thing. Okay, get multiple POVs, then piece the truth together between all of them. Between what everybody has to say, the truth is somewhere in the middle of all of it. But you got to get enough perspective so that you can see what are the commonalities here. What are some things, this side is extreme on this one, this one's on the other extreme. All right, what's the actual truth here? Yes, you got to do more work. I want to make sure I'm being clear on that. Yes, this is more work. Social media was supposed to make things easier. This social media was supposed to level the playing field and say, okay, now you don't have to do all the work because now you can just follow these few people and they'll give you the objective stuff. And yes, there are some people out there that will give you objective stuff, but you got to go find out who those people are. You got to look around, find the people who are being objective about things that will give it to this side just as much as they give it to that side. They will talk about this thing as much as they'll talk about that thing. And in a way that they're being fair and balanced. And the simple way to know who's being fair and balanced, just look at if someone will criticize either side of an argument. Can somebody argue both sides of an argument? A wise person can see both sides. A person who's anything less than wise, and you can come up with your own terms to describe them, they can only argue one side of an argument. Why? Because they are, for whatever reason, emotionally engaged with that one side. They could not possibly bring themselves to argue another way of seeing things. How many people do you know? How many friends do you have who can do that? How many people in your circle can argue both sides of a point? You can name a point and they can argue the pro and the con. Talk about a subject, some hot button issue, and they can say, well, look, people on this side have this argument and they can make the argument. And they say, well, people on the other side, they have this argument and they can make that argument. How many friends do you have who could do that right now on the spot? Do you have any? Can you do it? Social media was supposed to make it easy for all of us to be able to do this, but it has absolutely failed at that. And social media gets an F at doing that. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is the truth is rarely sexy. Ask yourself the following question. Are you mentally looking at a situation, circumstance, information, news, so to speak, in your mind, are you making that news or information seem better than it is or worse than it is based on your agreement or disagreement with it? So when you hear something about person X, are you allowing your feelings about person X, whether you approve of them or disapprove of them, to make that story sound better or worse than it actually is because of your feelings, because of your emotions around the situation? Now, I almost didn't even make this a point in today's episode, but I added this point in, this question in that I'm posing to you, because it seems like a pointless question with so many people today, because every single one of us is guilty of this, but so few people will actually admit it. But I gotta try. I gotta try to save everybody. I know I'll fail to do that, but I gotta try. But so few people are willing to even admit this, let alone are they capable of pointing it out. Understand that in life, everyone, the truth is never as bad nor as great as it seems to be. The person that you follow or listen to, or the publication that you read or watch or subscribe to, is not as good as they sound, and they're not as bad as they sound. So your job is to always understand, and the way that you're able to figure this out, suss this out, is you always got to know the angle of the person that you're talking to and the people that you're listening to. Everybody has an angle. Every human being on this planet has an angle. In other words, they have one way or another that they're looking to persuade you. If you don't know their angle, then they will play you. You basically will get hustled. You don't know somebody's angle, they'll hustle you. Episode 750, I talked about this. Knowing your angles and knowing the angles of other people. What does that mean when I say knowing your angles? It means understanding what conclusion this person wants you to come to, even though they call themselves just telling you the truth. See, if someone wants you and they have a vested interest in you coming to a certain conclusion, what they call the truth is usually not the actual truth. What you want to find is someone who doesn't have a vested interest in you coming to a certain conclusion, because then no matter what conclusion you come to, whatever decision you make, how you see things, they're not emotionally engaged in that, and they're fine with you coming to whatever conclusion you want to. The news, again, used to be the entity that did this, but that ship has left the dock a long fucking time ago. Understand that no human being does something for nothing. And human beings work at Fox News. Human beings work at CNN. Human beings work at Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. They're humans too. They might have big names and big job titles, but they're still humans. And nobody does something for nothing. Everybody has an angle. Everybody has some outcome that they want to drive, and they're going to do their best to drive that outcome while looking like they're not trying to, if they're supposed to be objective. And there are a lot of people out here who are allegedly objective, but they're actually not. But if you don't have the critical thinking skills, as we talked about in the soft skills series, if you don't have the critical thinking skills to analyze who's posing as one thing but doing another thing, if you can't notice that, then you're the one who's getting played. The hustle is you. You are the hustle. So this is something that you should take seriously and really dig into as soon as possible. Just open up your social media apps right now. Open up the last article that you read. Go to any website of any news outlet who claims to be a news outlet and look at their headlines. Right? There are thousands of examples of this all over the place if you just notice them and you just realize what the game is being played. Again, don't be mad at the game. Don't be mad at the players either. Everybody got to do what they got to do. We all got to eat out here, right? Life ain't free. But just know that the game's being played and just make sure you're not the one who's being played. Recapping today's topic, which is truth is rarely sexy. Talking about this because the media, which we used to be able to trust, mainstream media, social media, both, does not share nuance anymore. We all consume this material. They give us the extremes because the extremes work to drive our emotions. When you touch somebody's emotions, you get them to do whatever you want them to do. Appreciate the game, but don't get sucked into the matrix. Point number one, truth always lives in between the extremes of the stories that you hear. People will make a story sound innocent and well-meaning when they are the good guy in the story, make their enemies sound like Satan reincarnated. Knowing this, appreciate the version that people give you of a story, but knowing there's always some sauce on the story when someone has an angle and some conclusion that they want you to come to. Point number two, you got to get your own information now. I told you in episode 1474, the news is no longer the news. The problem is everybody's telling their own version of events, not the actual truth of events. So the solution is you got to get multiple points of view. Get the same story from multiple different people who have different angles, and you can piece together the truth, which is somewhere in between all of their bullshit. All right, some of them will tell you some good stuff, but in between it, they mix in a lot of bullshit. Bullshit, i.e. their perspective and the way that they want you to see things. Social media was supposed to solve this problem and has absolutely failed at doing so. Point number three, ask yourself, are you mentally making something better or worse than it is because you agree or disagree with a certain perspective before you even have all the information? I almost didn't add this point because it seems pointless with so many people, because even if you point it out in them, they just, cognitive dissonance kicks in immediately and they can't understand it, or they pretend that they can't understand it. They 100% understand it. They pretend that they can't, but I got to try to save everybody. I'm a dreamer sometimes. The truth is never as bad nor as great as it seems to be. Your job is to know the angle of the people you are talking to, as I talked about in episode 750. Remembering that no person does something for nothing, and the people who work at big companies and big tech and the news media outlets and have big social media platforms, they're humans. They have an angle the same way that you have an angle. Your angle is to just not get hustled. Know the game that you are in. Oh yeah, and if you have not sent me a text me at 305-384-6894. Let me know the most valuable insight, most valuable nugget you got from today's episode. 305-384-6894. Work on your game. Dre all day.